I love you is not a complete sentence. It's not. I love you is not a complete sentence, especially if you're not experiencing it, if the safety isn't there, if the certainty isn't there, if the plan of action isn't there, if the commitment, if the trust, if any of that stuff is missing. And you're staying there because he loves me, or fellas, because she loves me. You have to understand that I love you is not a complete sentence. And this ain't even advice. I'm just sharing with y'all from a personal standpoint because these last couple of years have been a doozy. Some of y'all have seen it play out online. But one way that I've gotten through it is not just therapy, but an extension of that, which is conversations with my mentors and my accountability partners. And as we were talking about one certain segment of my life where things weren't going how they should have been because of me, one thing I kept leaning on was, well, the love was there, but I was trying to look for how to qualify it. And then something came to me and was that, the love was there, but I love you is not a complete sentence. So if you're in a situation where you're with somebody and the love is there, but other things aren't, this is how you complete that sentence. Add to it enough to. I love you enough to. If a man is telling you I love you, you should be able to say, okay, enough to, and then fill in that blank. And then have him back that up with action. I love you enough to protect you. I love you enough to communicate with you even when I really don't want to. I love you enough to show up and forgive you because I've needed forgiveness. I love you enough to secure you, safeguard your heart, respect the relationship, etc., etc. Because oftentimes when I get these questions about, well, D, I know he loves me, but how do I know if he loves me? And da-da-da-da. Just because a man loves you doesn't mean that he's actually ready to love you. Think about like a 5-year-old driving a car. If they press the gas pedal, if they turn the car on, if they put it in drive, and you see them press that gas pedal, technically they're driving, right? You're gonna look and say, oh, that 5-year-old is driving. You can't deny it. You can't say, well, the 5-year-old's just thinking about driving or, whatever. No, the 5-year-old is technically driving, but you also can acknowledge that they don't know how to drive. And when a person is doing something, but at the same time not knowing how to do it or being ready to do it, what's gonna happen? They're gonna crash. Somebody's gonna get hurt. The car's probably gonna get totaled or potentially get totaled and not even be drivable again. But I feel like until a man is actually ready to love, and again, this is personal and professional. I know some of y'all already talking greasy in these comments, which is fine. Here's what it is. You're still here. But until a man is actually ready to love, yeah, he can love, but he's going to crash and somebody's going to get hurt. Most likely the person that's down the ride with him. So how do you know if a man is ready to love? My humble opinion is there's 4 ways that you know that a man is ready to love, or rather should I say not ready to love. The first way to know that a man is not ready to love is if he does not know his status. If he does not know his status. So a lot of people think that in order to get into a relationship, you got to be 100% healed, scar-free, wound-free, issue-free, trauma-free, trigger-free. I don't believe that. I think just like in life, period, you're going to have stuff that happens. You're going to have a sickness, or, die, God forbid any of y'all. But you might have something, you might have some type of ailment, COVID or whatever you got, right? But let's just take it to like sexual health. No, I ain't got no STDs, but there's no shaming that's gonna go on here. When people have herpes or AIDS or whatever, it's not like their entire life has to stop. They have to take a certain type of medication. They have to have sex at certain times. Maybe they have to use certain precautions, with certain condoms, whatever. But knowing their status allows them to protect people that they're going to engage with, right? So the same thing goes for a man. It's not that he has to be drama-free, trigger-free, trauma-free, whatever. And the same thing goes for y'all. If you're healing from a relationship or childhood trauma or whatever, but if he does not know his status, if he does not know what's wrong with him, if he hasn't done the work to investigate that, if he doesn't know what narratives he still needs to rewrite or what ways that he gets triggered, if he doesn't know any of that, he also doesn't know how to protect you as you come into that. He also doesn't know what boundaries. So say, for instance, if your ailment is hypertension or something like that, you probably got some little monitor on and whenever your blood pressure gets to a certain point, you can't participate in certain activities. So you don't just stop life, but oh, my blood pressure is here or my sugar is there and it's, certain things going on. Now I need to act or move a certain way so that I don't go beyond my threshold. Same thing goes for a man whenever he's in a relationship. So if he does not know his emotional and mental status, not about him being perfect and never going through anything, because we all got flaws, myself included. But if he doesn't know his status, he cannot protect you or himself from getting hurt. The second way that you know that a man is not ready to love you is if he doesn't have a purpose. Because if he doesn't have a purpose, he's going to be choosing you from one of 2 places. Either a desire for pleasure, an insatiable desire for pleasure, might I add, or from pain to fill those voids. Kind of similar to what I was saying in number 1. But if he has a purpose, he can integrate you into that, because a man is going to be more loyal to his purpose than he's ever going to be to another person. So if you integrate into that, and the only way that you can is if he has clarity on what that is, that's really the only safety and security. We're just built to be mission led if we're operating in our masculinity. So if he doesn't have a mission, if he doesn't have a purpose, he's going to be going every which way, wherever his emotions go, wherever his flesh wants to go, or wherever his pain and triggers and everything else motivates him to go. Another way that you know that a man is not ready to love you is if he doesn't love himself. And I know that's really cliche, right? And you may try to love him, or you may have love for him, even if he doesn't love himself. But what I'm saying is he's not ready to love you. He's not ready to receive your love, and he's not ready to love you, because if he doesn't love himself, then your love is going to feel like it doesn't fit. It's going to feel like he doesn't deserve it. And when a man is getting love that he doesn't feel like he's supposed to be receiving, he's not really good enough to receive, he wastes it. And of course, if he's wasting your love that you're giving him, there's no way that he can actually fill back up your cup. If he's not forgiving and patient with himself whenever he does something wrong, how is he going to be forgiving and patient with you? He's going to be critical. If he doesn't take time to deal with himself, he can't respect whenever you need time to deal with yourself and what you got going on. So in all the acts of service or whatever in the world, it's not going to override what type of acts of service or words of affirmation or quality time or gifts or whatever that he gives himself. If he doesn't have a healthy relationship with himself, he definitely can't establish that with you. Now, one more way that you know that a man is not ready to love is if he's dominated by his ego. And this is one of the biggest personal revelations that I had. All of the competence, all of the conscious awareness, all of that stuff in the world did me no good until I learned how to manage my ego. Some people call it killing the ego. But the reason why so the ego is basically who you think you are. And if a man is dominated by who he thinks he is, anything that threatens that, he's going to get defensive. Anything that comes up against that, he's going to go on the attack, because he can never really look at himself in the mirror and say, well, this is my reality. This is what I'm dealing with. This is the good, bad, and ugly. How do I get better? If anything, I would say ego is the enemy of growth, because you can't learn anything that you think you already know. You can't improve in any way that you think you already are the gold standard. And all of that is ego. So if a man is still dominated by his ego, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a man that deflects. You're going to get a man that blames you even though he's wrong. You're going to get a man who tunes you out the moment that you're not stroking his ego. And you're going to get a man who never evolves. This is one of the reasons why I did the Secrets to Making Evolvement Crave You Masterclass. And if y'all were on that masterclass, you already know we talked about this. You need to know the signs that a man is still dominated by his ego, because if that's present, his evolution is absent. He can't evolve. He doesn't see a need to evolve. Or he's only going to evolve in the ways that he's already competent, but not in the way of his weaknesses that he still needs to get there. And as a woman, you were built to maximize everything in a man's life that he has going on. Emphasis on that he already has going on. But in order for you to maximize something for a man, he has to be able to be receptive of that value that you can maximize. Otherwise, again, if it does not align with whatever his ego is already on, he's going to waste your value. And some of y'all are coming across guys where you're trying to increase them and you're trying to improve them and you're trying to nurture them. You're trying to counsel and you'll go to therapy with them and encourage them. And nothing's happening. In fact, you're the one that's going downhill in life because you're trying to love this person that's dominated by ego. So you have to switch your whole program to dealing with men who are already evolved. Now, I'm not going to go too far in depth on how to recognize an evolved man and how to stand out and attract evolved men, because I already did that on my masterclass, The Secrets to Making Evolved Men Crave You, which is, by the way, absolutely free. So if you missed that, I'm going to make it available one more time today at the link right here. If you click that link, you can get access to the free masterclass, Secrets to Making Evolved Men Crave You. You ain't got to pay me nothing. Just go ahead and register before it comes down. Get access to it. Hop on over there after we're done. But the moral of the story is this. Back to what I was saying. I love you is an incomplete sentence. If you're not seeing it in action form consistently and in terms of a person's patterns, if you're not experiencing love, if it feels like something is missing, okay, you love me, but I'm not feeling it like this, that, and the other, then whoever it is telling you I love you, have them complete the sentence. Enough to. You love me enough to what? Have that conversation. And then have the conversation around actions. And then if they're not willing to back it up with actions long enough for it to become patterns, then you know that they're not actually ready to love you, even though they may. And love alone ain't good enough. Ask somebody who received just that and nothing else. But those are just my thoughts. I'm just your internet brother trying to look out. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you got anything of value from this, share this right now for somebody else that you can also bless on your timeline. And if you're in the market for an evolved man, who of course is still evolving, so you don't have to try to raise one and correct one and fix one and build one and all that stuff. If you're in the market for an evolved man and you want to know how to attract one, click the link that you see pinned right here. I went in. This live chat we just did ain't got nothing on that. Click the link right here before it comes down. It's absolutely free. I'll holler at y'all later. Y'all be good. Peace.